Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Razak at CMTrading. Today is August 24th, 2021, and today is Tuesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, NASDAQ rallies to new record highs, and that's really on the back of Microsoft. There is no major economic event scheduled for today. So as we look at the various markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, the US dollar continues to slide versus the major pairs as the major pairs continue to push higher versus the dollar. Now looking at the indices, as mentioned, the NASDAQ on record highs and the Dow Jones extending its gains. Looking at commodities, gold above $1,800 per ounce, while oil rebounds. Now looking at the stocks, Microsoft on its highs as mentioned before. And lastly, looking at Bitcoin, it's tapering off at 50K and possibly retracing at this level. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So we're going to take a look here at the Euro USD, the Aussie USD, the GBP, and the Rand. And all of them are really bounced nicely versus the dollar. Now we are hitting a little bit of a resistance-ish level at this area, 1749 in the euro. If we look at a longer time frame, at a daily time frame, you can see that a little bit clearer. 1757 is even a better resistance-ish area. So it could be that we pass above it, because this so far is still a bona fide downwards momentum. Now we are at the bottom of the range, right? The bottom of the range being 1689. So this is a decent place for this to bounce if we look at a daily chart. Now looking at the Aussie USD, even stronger. And on a 4-hour chart and a daily chart, you can see we're not even close to the 30-day moving average on a daily, but on a 4-hour chart, we actually crossing over. So this is momentous, okay? This is really an important level. Now our next real resistance level is 7297, okay? But it does look like it's still raising higher. It's still trending higher for now. Now looking at the Gbp Usd, also bouncing quite nicely. And again, this is a daily, and we're still below the 30-day moving average. Looking at a 4-day moving average, you could see that we're above it. So this gets kind of interesting at these areas because we're right in the middle of these two major time frames, okay, in the moving average. Okay, now it's still a upwards momentum. And as long as the NASDAQ can continue going higher, I think you're going to see the dollar getting weaker. Now looking at the Rand as well, getting much stronger versus the USD. And 15 is a nice support level for it, okay? So we're right there, and you can see at a 4-hour chart, we're also crossing over on the 30-day moving average, but on the daily, we're not even close as well. So that's something to consider going into today's trading. Now, lastly, going into commodities, gold trading at 1803 as we broke above finally yesterday out of this consolidation-ish area that we had last week. We didn't break above it, and then finally breaking once it got some momentum above the 30-day moving average. You could see that right there, the crossover between the two, and then popping up to 1800. Now we're still in a range, okay, and I'd still consider this, you know, a low probability trade, but the next real resistance is 1828, but we could just consolidate in this area, okay? So with that said, just keep it in mind looking at today. Now looking at oil, a nice little bounce yesterday, finally. Okay, 65.89 after hitting 62.25, which is a decent range right there as it nice rallied on that Monday. Now, Thursday is a major economic event called Jackson Hole, and that's a symposium of when the federal government and the federal bank will be discussing moving forward and some of their economic policy moving forward. So that's really an important event, and markets are being like propped up right before that. So that could be something that is happening in light of what's going on in the markets. Now we're looking at the Dow Jones, complete rebound from last week, 35,300-ish level, a nice, amazing play between last Monday, selling off on Wednesday, capitulating on Friday, and then finally taking off on Friday and Monday. And now we're right back to where we are. This is so, how should I call it? This is so the type of environment that we're in, which reminds me of, you know, a pre-recession, pre-depression possibly even environment, because you see the massive sell-offs and then the, you know, the push higher, but it's not sustainable. The push higher is not being backed up with any kind of bow. Now we're looking at the NASDAQ, a complete breakout last week, for yesterday, excuse me, from 15,120 up to 15,340, new record highs as you could see there. And this is very reminiscent to Microsoft. If we look at Microsoft, the same thing right there, 303, breaking out. Okay, so we saw the NASDAQ actually catching up to the Microsoft stock. So I'd like to see some extended gains in Microsoft to give me that pull up in the NASDAQ. Now, if we look at the major other pairs, major stocks, Apple did not break out, 147. If we look at Facebook, also did not break out. Amazon did get a bit of a lift yesterday above 32,552, which was a support level. So that was something positive that came out of yesterday. Now, looking at the big board stocks, if we look at Alcoa, a nice little rally above $40, that was a major move. Okay, that's a nice major gap and go, okay, kind of environment. So this is really making itself some real estate back. JP Morgan, not as much. So it's not across the board. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to come across here. It's that it's slowly coming out. Now, if we look at the VIX, we did see it correct itself from last week's major sell-off, and that's normal, okay, as we're pushing higher with increased volume. Now, lastly, looking at Bitcoin, all right, we do look like we are tapering off at this 50,000-ish level. Here we're looking at a daily chart. If we look at a 1-hour chart, it's still on upwards momentum, okay? I still wouldn't say that this is, oh, it's going to correct itself now and going to go back to 43 or 40,000 at this level. It's still in an upwards momentum, maybe taking a little bit of a breather going into the next session, going into Jackson Hole. So this is something to consider into today. I wouldn't say that it's going to change its character and become weak all of a sudden, but it's something to consider going into today's trading. Maybe it'll just play catch up a little bit later today and seeing that actually extends its gains. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish everybody a great trading day. Thank you.